Today we will learn how to create this effect using JavaScript and a little bit of CSS. So you'll see the image initially starts black and white, and as I scroll, parts of it starts to get colored. So if I scroll down, it gets colored more and more and finally reveals the entire image, and if I scroll up, it goes in reverse. So you can use whatever image you want, and this is actually very simple to do. So let's see how to do this. So to get started, I have an image, and this is just an image I generated using AI. You can use whatever image you want, and then what I'm going to do is go to our browser and go to Figma. And if you have never used Figma, don't worry, it is very simple. We'll only use basic stuff. Create an account if you don't have already, and after that you just click on this design, and then you can click here and drag, and it will generate a frame. Let's say the width is gonna be 1600 and height is gonna be 900, so 16:9 aspect ratio. And you can press Ctrl and use your mouse scroll wheel to resize the design like this. And then I'm going to simply drag this image on our frame. So just drag it, and then we can position it and we can resize it. So if I hold shift and drag it, the image will be resized like this. And then I can also reposition it. So let's say the image is gonna be like this. And then if I double click on an image, so I have selected the image and double click, it will open this slider, and then I can use this slider to edit my image basically. So let me just quickly edit this. And I think this is pretty close to what we had. And then what I can do is click on this frame and then press Ctrl D, and this will duplicate the frame. And then in this frame again I can double click on the image, and what I'm simply going to do is set the saturation to 0, and this will make the image black and white. And again I can also reduce the contrast or increase it, and basically do whatever I want to make this image look however I want. And finally we'll need another frame. So just click on frame and then create a frame, and again it will be 1600 by 900. And then we're going to click here and then select the pencil. You can also press Shift P, so the pencil icon, and then we're going to increase the width of the stroke. So let's say it will be something like 200, and the color will be black, and this is how it looks like. You can press Ctrl Z to undo. So basically what we want to do is click anywhere and drag just a little bit, and it will make this area black. And what I want to do is keep doing this until I have filled my entire screen. And you can use small strokes or big strokes, however you want. However you draw the strokes here, this is how your image will be revealed. So I'm going to just do small strokes and fill it. And it is pretty much done, but I have some strokes outside the frame. So what I'm going to do is click on this and then select the elements that is outside our frame. And you can hold shift and click on the elements to select multiple, and then simply drag them in our frame. So now all the strokes or all the lines are in our frame. And then we can choose the frame. And it initially had a white background that we don't need, so we can click on this minus icon, and that white background will be removed. And then we can simply click on export, and we are going to export this as SVG, and click on export. And we are also going to export these two, but these are going to be PNG. So select frame 1, export as PNG, frame 2, and also export as PNG. And then finally I'm going to drag and drop this in our project. So let me just find those. They should be in the downloads. And these are the 3 frames, so I can just drag them here. And this is our 3 files. Okay, great. Now we can start coding. So I can close this and open up a new window. And we can delete this initial file also. And let's just rename this to mask. And this one, we can call it hero -bw for black and white, and this one just hero. And then we can create a new file. It will be index.html. We also need a CSS and a JavaScript file. In the HTML, let's start writing our code. First we're going to link our style sheet. It will be style.css, and we also need a main.js. So script source is going to be main.js. So in the HTML, first we're going to have a container. Inside the container, first we are going to have a div with the class of hero-image-wrapper, and this will have a background of our original hero image. Inside that we are going to have a hero image dot hero-img, and this one will have a background of the black and white image. I'll have a content outside our hero wrapper, so they can be on top of both image background. So for the content you can have whatever you want. I'm just going to have a div with a class of content, and inside that we're going to have a h1 and a paragraph text, and again you're going to have your own content here. And then finally at the bottom you can have an optional text that says the end, so we can see when it ends. Now let's go to our style sheet. We're going to say everything will have a margin of 0, a padding of also 0, and a box sizing of border box. And you can add a font family, so let's say font family, and the font will be Poppins. And let's just open it in our browser, and this is how it looks like. So let's style it more. So let's target our container. Our container will have a width of 100%, a height of 100 VH or 100 viewport height, so entire screen. And then we're going to say background image. It will be our hero.png, and this is the image, but it is not sized properly, so let's say background size, and the size will be cover, and background position will be centered. And this is how this looks like, but we don't have much scroll area. So what I'm going to do is say our container will have a height of 300 viewport height, so we have some space to scroll. So now the image is not looking very good, so what I'm going to do is instead of giving the background to container, we're going to give it to our hero image wrapper, this one. So copy this, paste it, and just move them here. And you can see it, that is because the hero image does not have any content, so it doesn't have any height or width. So we're going to say width of 100% and height 100 viewport height. So the wrapper is only taking the size of the screen, but the container is taking 3 times the height of the screen because we said 300 VH. But in our original document you'll see that the image stays in place, it does not scroll down, but this one does. So we're simply going to say our container will have a position of relative, and then our hero wrapper will have a position of sticky and a top of 0. If I do this, now it stays in place. Then we're going to target the hero image that is inside the hero wrapper. So in the styles, target our hero image, and this will be very similar to what we did here. So let me just paste it. So we're simply saying height of 100%, width of 100%, and background is going to be hero.png, a background size of cover, and a position of center. So this one we can now make it black and white. So this is the image that is behind the original image or the colored image, so we can see it. But if I just cut this out, you'll see we get the black and white image, and so the colored image is now on top. So now what we want to do is use the mask that we created, which is the lines that we drawn. So to use that as a mask, what we're going to do is we're going to say mask image, and this is going to be URL, and we're simply going to say mask.svg, and then mask size is going to be cover, and then mask position of center, and we can also say mask repeat to no repeat. And then we're going to do the same thing but with the WebKit prefixes for Safari and WebKit browser supports. So basically we're defining same thing but with a WebKit prefix. So if I now save it, you'll see nothing changes. That is because our mask is entirely black. But if I go here and delete a few paths, you'll see some sections are now black and white because we removed some paths. So what we would do is initially we'd have no path at all, so none of the colored image will be shown, and as we scroll we'll be adding the paths one by one, so the image will gradually reveal its color. Now we just have a little bit of content to style, so we can quickly style that. So we're going to say that content, this will have a position of absolute, so position of absolute, and then we can say width 100%, height 100%, and a top of 0. So if I just say background color to green, here is the content. So let's say this will have a display of flex direction, a column, justify content center, align item center, and we can also say text align center. And the content is taking 3 times the screen height, so let's just put it inside our wrapper. So now it is only taking the height of screen, not 3 times the screen, and it has a position of sticky as well because it is inside our wrapper. And then we can just remove this. So this is our content, and we can have whatever content we want inside this, and we can style it however we want. So let me just style it real quick. So this is how it looks like. Let's just say the justify content will be flex end. so it will be at the end. I have added some padding at the bottom, so it is not going down the screen. So, okay, now it's time for the exciting part, that is our JavaScript. So what I'm going to do is first get our mask and just copy this, Control C, and go to our HTML, and we're going to paste it here. This SVG here, this will have an ID, so we're going to give it an ID. Let's give it an ID of mask. And this G here, this G means groups, and inside this group we have all our path. So this G here, we can give it an ID of group, so we can target it in our JavaScript basically. So let's go to our main.js. Const container equals to document.querySelector.container. Then we're going to target our hero image. So the hero image is the colored image, not the wrapper. And then the SVG, which has the ID of mask, and then the group, which has the ID of group inside the SVG. So now what we want to do is get all the paths that is inside our group. So we can say const paths equals to group.innerHTML, and let's just console log this. So we're going to say console.log our paths, inspect, and we have all the paths but as a string. So here we can also say .split, and we're going to split by a new line, so \n. If I do this, now we have an array of all our paths. So after we got our path, we can remove this. This is our SVG. So here after we already got our path, we don't need to show the SVG, so we can say svg.remove, and this will remove the SVG from the DOM, so it will not show the SVG that we have over here. And in the CSS, where we're saying our mask image is going to be this, we're going to remove this, because we are going to be generating the mask in our JavaScript and apply it using the JavaScript as well. So in our main.js, we're going to have a function called getMask. So function getMask, and let's say let svg equals to, it will be a string, and we can go to our HTML, and we'll always have this path, and then we're going to say svg plus equals to another string, and then we're going to get the last part up until for closing G tag and paste it. And in between this, we're going to have all the paths, and the paths we already have them in this paths variable. Now sometimes we want to show one path, sometimes we want to show two, and sometimes we want to show all of the paths. So let's say our getMask will receive a percentage, so it's a 0 to 100, and depending on that, it will either show 0 paths or all the paths in our array. So we're going to say paths to show, and we're going to do some calculation over here. So we're going to say math.floor, and then we're going to say percent divided by 100 times path.length, and this will give us a value between 0 to the number of paths depending on the percent value. And then we can do a loop. So for I equal to 0, I is less than the number of path to show, add that many path to our SVG. So now I can just say console.log, and let's just say getMask, and let's say 0, and if I inspect, okay, we get undefined. That is because we have to return the SVG, so return SVG at the end. So initially we just get this with no path, but if I say, let's say 10%, we get a few paths. So this is what we're going to use to generate the SVG mask dynamically. So initially the mask should be empty, so we're going to say const initial mask. So const initial SVG or initial mask, whatever you want to call, equals to getMask 0, and then we're going to say hero image dot style dot webkit mask image equals to, and then we're going to have to say URL. It will be data/image, it will be SVG and UTF-8 characters, and then we're going to use the string template. Inside that we're going to say encode URI component and our mask, and this is how we apply our mask that is generated using JavaScript. Let's also do a normal version that is not a WebKit version. So we're going to say hero image dot style dot mask image, and it will be the same thing. Save it, and now it gets black and white. That is because we had 0%, but if we had 10%, we'd see a little bit of color. If we had 20, we'd see more. but we will start at 0. So now we are going to start revealing color as we scroll. So for that we are going to use a scroll event listener. So we're going to say we're going to first get our container height. So we're going to say const container height equals to container dot offset height minus window dot inner height. And then we're going to say window dot add event listener, and we're going to listen for a scroll event. And here we can get the scroll position by saying window dot scroll y. And then we're going to say const scroll percent equals to, again we're going to use a little bit of math, scroll y divided by container height. And then we're going to say const percent equals to math.min, minimum of 100, and math.max 0 to percent times 100. So basically we're converting the percent into 100, and just in case if the value is more than 100 or less than 0, we're clamping it to 0, clamping it between 0 and 100. We're simply calculating a value between 0 and 100 depending on the scroll. So we can just console log this. So console.log percent inspect, and if I scroll, you'll see I get a value between 0 and 100. So now it is very simple. We're just going to say const mask equal to get mask by the percent, and we just apply the mask the way we did above. Save it, and this should be all. As I scroll, the image is revealed slowly, and it is very dynamic. So in our CSS, instead of 300, if we had 500 viewport height, it would still work fine. So I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you did, don't forget to like and comment your video suggestions, and I'll try to make them as soon as possible.